talk today focus on a puzzle, and it is a puzzle of success, and we are grappling with it. It is a notable success in Waldorf, intercultural, urban, public education. Now, for 15 years, the Community School for Creative Education in Oakland. Now, conventional knowledge, both outside Waldorf circles and inside, is that Waldorf has not done it. There is no Waldorf school that serves low income, and there's no Waldorf school that's low income and diverse. We haven't figured it out. So, one outcome of today is that when next you hear somebody say that, you say proudly, we have a wonderful existence proof. We have a very powerful proof of concept. The task now is to learn from it and to grow it. So it is joyous news. Now, so today the outcomes are is one, that when we leave, we know that we have a wonderful intercultural urban Waldorf school serving low income, and that we pause together to think why. What have we been able to do at community school that we can all take away from and so grow what is the initial mission of Waldorf education, the Waldorf School for the children of the workers of the Waldorf cigarette factory, to serve the most low income side by side with the factory owners' children. And finally, very important, as a Waldorf lecture, it's not just the head, it's the heart and the hand. We're going to roll up our sleeves and test the key strategy, what Emma Paulino will call the heart blood of the strategy to build as an inclusive community. So first, very briefly, 3 features of our success. Community school is one among the most diverse, not just in the San Antonio neighborhood of Oakland, which is the most diverse neighborhood in the most diverse city of California, in the most diverse state of the USA, in one of the most diverse countries of the globe. So a remarkable phenomenon of diversity is in Community School for Creative Education. Now, we've seen diversity with low academic achievement, a lot of diversity, and nobody is learning. That is the deepest failure to our community and must always be avoided. We are the opposite. We are not only the most diverse, but among the most high achieving, for the most vulnerable, highest performing, for English language learners, for children who have special needs, for low income children, and we are outperforming our higher wealth counterparts. So communities that are richer, there our children are doing better. We're not competitive. We just want to be ahead so that our children who have to do better to be successful can actually thrive. So among the highest performing, the most diverse, and we don't hold it under a bushel. We're among the highly recognized. We've been recognized on the stage in the city, in the state, in the country, and on the globe. Enjoy Waldorf 100 Part 2. We have the largest footage of all cities, schools featured across the globe when we think about intercultural Waldorf education. So, worthy of looking at. And we know Waldorf educators can do it today, not just 100 years ago. Now, why is it particularly important or particularly fascinating? We're not the first to try it, but we are the first to succeed. There was Urban Waldorf in Milwaukee. It is shuttered. There's Harriet Tubman School in San Diego. It still exists, but there's no word of Waldorf on the website. And then there's Alice Burney School in Sacramento, a beautiful school. But remember, it started to serve the low-income community in Sacramento, but then it moved to a higher wealth community, and it was only then that it thrived, and now it serves a upper middle class community. It's 32% low income, where the state average, the average is 59%. So an upper middle class school. We're now talking about serving low income. And finally, why is it important to understand the success puzzle? You know, in 1919, you'd think, close your eyes 100 years out, the world will be rich with schools serving side by side higher wealth and low income families. That was the vision, that was the power, what was founded by Steiner. But 2 years after Steiner's death, the Waldorf school had already gentrified with 22% tuition free, and everybody else was paying tuition from that vision of everybody could come. So now, and please, if you want to know more, I urge you to read Nana Goebel's beautiful 3 volumes on the history of Waldorf education and its people to understand. And as Christoph Wieger says in his introduction to those volumes, it is so important for us to own our success, to own our past, to own our future. But given that, such a powerful beginning, and then it ran through our fingers, how can we bring it back? We want to understand what is going on at community school. And now, without further ado, I hand it to Emma Paulino, because at the center is what Emma is now bringing in my analysis. And I want to say one last thing. Many of you will know Henry Barnes, the elder who brought in 1928 Waldorf education to the shores of America. When he was in his 80s, I came to him saying, I really feel we have to start to work in inner city settings to bring Waldorf schools to everybody. And it needs to be public, so it's tuition free. Can you bless that effort? Because there was a lot of criticism that we wouldn't be Waldorf enough, we wouldn't be pure. Henry Barnes said, after stroking his chin, Ida, we have to go where the children are. I said, Henry, I can't do it alone. Who else is going the path? Henry gave me one address. And when I went there, I was introduced to the young person who then introduced me to Emma Paulino. So in a way, it's Henry Barnes brought Waldorf education to United States shores, and Emma Paulino is bringing Waldorf education to the communities it was meant to serve. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming Emma Paulino.
Thanks, Dr. Ida, and thanks to each one of you who are joining us in this important conversation. And I just want to say a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Mexico. I came to United States around 40 years ago. I got married here to my husband, who is from the Philippines. He was a new immigrant also in this country. And we have 3 children together. My story is long, and I'm not going to spend so much time on it. But all I can tell you is that as an immigrant who didn't know anything about any system, whether it was education or any other kind of system in this country, everything was new for me. So when my children started to go to school, I had real challenge because I can see, I can feel, and I experience how much they were lacking around opportunities to really learn and use their intelligence, use their minds in a full capacity. That's the reason why I got involved with what now is Faith in Action East Bay. Back in the years was Oakland Community Organizations. And what we're going to share during this time together is how important it is for us to center our work and building relationships with people in the community. Not to say that we're going to serve this community because I believe or I assume that this is what the community needs, but because I'm open to learn what this community needs and work together. So when Dr. Ida came to me, it was early in 2000 when we just kind of finished the first steps in transforming the education system in Oakland. It was the whole education system, not one school, not one community. And everything came from the bottom up because the organizers with faith and action were sitting, listening to parents like myself, understanding what was the challenge that were facing, and taking us from there, walking us all the way in the road to learn why the system was failing. That was not my child or the children of Oakland who were failing, were not the teachers. It was the system. And without that understanding, it will be just impossible to change anything. But because of this methodology, the organizing methodology that we use, really help people like myself to understand the power dynamics, to analyze power, to analyze policies, to create new policies. So when Dr. Ida came, we were already, make huge steps. And one of the major changes that we made was to create new schools in Oakland. That attracts so many educators from across the country. So many people came to us asking to support them to open a new school. We took all the caution possible not to allow ourselves to get just into the train that was running by parents to allow anybody else to come and take over the train. So when Dr. Ida came to me and say, I want to open this school and I want to share with you what is this school about, I listened to her with all the, I was open, but at the same time really skeptical because I feel like, I don't know, this is something that they will be the right fit for our community. And the challenge that I put in front of her is, have you been able to listen to the community? And she said, no. I say, okay, so I give a list of people that I recommend her to meet with and to listening to them. I thought Dr. Ida never will come back because, she looks totally different than the people I recommend her to speak with. She speaks totally different. She has, I even told her, I know you work really hard for your PhD, but do not introduce yourself as a Dr. Ida, because that will put distance between you and the community you say you want to serve. So again, I thought she's gonna go and don't come back again because I knew that it was hard. That challenge is hard for people. It was hard for me and remains hard. So sure enough, she met with people. She come back like 2 weeks later, give me a report and say, I met with so-and-so. And I just continue, saying, okay, now you need to go to this other community, go to this park where people gather together, go to this church, go to this organization. She did everything to the point that I say, okay, I give up. I'm going to see how I can support what she's trying to do. And the more I learn around Waldorf mission, the more I feel this needs to happen in our neighborhood. Because our children and our families deserve that. Because our kids have not been able to use their full capacity in terms of their own imagination, to use their hands, their minds, their heart, their bodies, and to put their hands into the learning. My second child learned through art. And it's what he was lacking when he was in the beginning of the school years. By the third grade, he couldn't even read one sentence. So for me, it wasn't my heart that this school must came to our neighborhood. So that was the beginning of what we have right now in place, that is community school for creative education, and the neighborhood that is the less served, the less privileged, with many children of different backgrounds, social economic disadvantage, language barriers, not only in terms of, children who are from Latin American, but from, Asia, from Africa, from different backgrounds, where the parents, many of them hardly went to school, where the parents hardly can, survive with all the living cost that we are, facing in California. So we work together, but Dr. Rita, I will say, transformed her way when she came into Oakland, into the place where she built the school, where we started the school. And it's with great gratitude I can say that I appreciate very much that she took her internal revolution to face the fear that we all face when we say we're gonna do something new for us. So my hope in today's, sharing is that if you can take away one piece from today's, is that in order for us to make changes, we must face our own fear and work on that and overcome that. In our organization model, we have what we call principles that guide our work. And one of the main ones is the first revolution is internal. Because we do have, all of us, we have really good intentions. But if those intentions don't become actions, it remains as a good intention only. So, again, in order for Dr. Rita to really walk the road, she has to overcome her own fear and being in spaces where she looks different than the rest of the people in the community, and have those conversations where she was open to learn what the community needs. It was not only that this is the Waldorf model, but curriculum, but it was about how that model would fit in this community. What it's going to take for me as an educator to bring people who believe in the same mission? How I'm gonna bring both educators and family to work together, not only to open the school, but to continue learning and growing together. So I'm gonna pause just to take questions and before going to the next part, and just to ask Dr. Ida if she would like to add anything before I continue on.
No, please take questions. Thank you.
Yeah, feel free to ask questions, and I cannot see everybody, so just talk. Okay, so should I move to the next?
Could I ask you a practical question, Emma?
Sure, absolutely.
In order to have a school, obviously there needs to be money, and it would help me understand the context in which you're working to know where that money comes from. Is it dependent on the number of pupils, and will the money then come out of the public purse? Could you clarify that?
I can speak to that.
Yes, please, Dr. Ida.
Yeah. So what's called a charter school under American education law is a school that is authorized by the public school system to be an alternative school, to have its own charter. That means that when the students come to you, they bring with them the monies allocated per student in that community. Having said that, because of our Waldorf program, it took a lot more money. So I did a lot of fundraising and got a lot of philanthropic support as well. Thank you.
And yes, each child brings money. As Dr. Ida says, not enough, never enough. So the role of Dr. Ida in terms of looking for extra funding has been a key. Did we answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much. I just wanted to clarify whether the parents are expected to bring any of their own money, but you've answered that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other question?
Can I just add one thing?
Please.
It's such a good question because so often in Waldorf schools, either public, private schools, we think we can do fundraisers from parents to get more money. We found that we can't do that because that will lay bare the income disparities in our community. So we didn't do anything except service from the parents, and monies all came from without, not from families.
Thanks. And those service from the parents, it helped them to feel the belonging sense, that they belong, the children belong to that school. So it played both roles, the ownership and also, to feel like we belong to, because we cannot afford to bring money, but we bring our talents. We bring our imagination. We support families by, teachers by having a dinner for them. Things that are very simple, but really important when you're trying to build a community.
I was wondering how much of a boundary the state creates when you choose to take on the charter school model.
The state, it depends on different states in America, different ways. In our case, we are in California, and in California, we're in Oakland. And Oakland, which is a low-income community, the boundaries are tighter because they feel like they have less margin of error and they don't want to have low student achievement. So it's a very big fight to get approved. And we won approval with the parents.
Yes, the reason why it was approved is because the parents, the people in the community demand for the county. We were not approved by the school district in Oakland. The system of education in our city declined our proposal. So we will move into the next level, that is the county, that involves so many cities. And we were approved by the county unanimously. Right, Dr. Ida? And it was because the parents were there, the children were there, why this school was important for them.
The question also is the boundary around Dr. Steiner's idea for a Waldorf education, because once the state steps in, they do have some implications.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I very much believe, if we read Steiner carefully, that it's not that he says you have to do it this way in terms of what he did, but you have to do it this way in terms of why he did it and to what end. So we were always willing to rethink and think further, as Steiner charged, so that we could bring the Waldorf school to life in Oakland.
Yeah, and I think as long as you comply with the academics in terms of, the outcomes for the school, that's the expectation from the state, if I can say, right, Dr. Ida?
That's exactly right.
So, and using this concept around organizing is more around who and why. So the who is the reason and the why we are doing this, right? And the who become the people who lead the work for the children and the parents. So and I know we're gonna do something around that later on in the role play, but I think it's really important that if we want to, be more inclusive, it's like, what is gonna be the challenge for me to make this happen as a leader in my school, or, whatever your role is. I'm just a parent. I'm not an educator. So I may feel kind of intimidated being in a space where, all of you are educated people with so much wisdom, knowledge, and also as a parent, I feel I have so much to bring into these conversations, because you are serving the children that are, the recipients of your knowledge and your gifts and your talents. So I'm going to start sharing a little bit about our organizing methodology and a little bit about where we came from as organization. Our organization is a faith-based organization. We organize, so we
I'm sorry, Emma, I see one question before we go.
Please.
From Christoph Bickert.
Yeah. Emma, you said a couple of minutes ago that you were not so much looking for the model, if there is a model for Waldorf. You was not so much looking for the model, but that the main drive was, what does the community need? And I was very much triggered by that sentence. What does a community need? And my question is, can you give some examples of the needs you found to model your community? Is that understandable, this question?
Sure, yes. Thank you for asking. This is really important
Just
question because
examples. I mean, the theory is clear and the statement is clear, but make it visible for us.
Sure. And we work in so many different issues in Auckland and this organizing model methodology. We work around healthcare access, we work around safety, we work around immigration. Using the model around education, I mean, we go to a neighborhood assuming that the parents or the people in that community need certain model of education. But if I do not listening to them and understand, like, for example, some of the questions from Dr. Rita when she was opening the school and some of the parents who got involved to meet with other parents were around, what is your child lacking at the school right now? What is something that you feel like is necessary to change? And if you will have access, what will that be? How will that look like? It was not for Dr. Rita to go and say what Waldorf was about, but it was more around what do you need that you don't have? And with that align with what we have and what we offer. Or there is something that we as a Waldorf is still lacking to offer for children and for families. For people of, from low income, like myself, for people who is coming from different countries, who face so many obstacles around language, around, social, economic, around, like we call in this country in USA, people of color, brown, black, people who looks different. So how we want to serve them without the assumption that this is what they need? So through listening to them, Dr. Rita was able to understand, and I myself also, because I was part of it, this is really what the community needs. And yeah, that process taught us that we were the right match for that community. I can give another example. I went to one side of the city because there was so much violence, and I went there assuming that the community needed for me to organize around violence, to, bring them on board around. I even have data that will support my assumption. I did a listening campaign, what we call listening campaign. We listening to 100 people. The priority for people was the trash on the streets. So that changed my whole assumption. And that is how you engage people, because people move based on their own self-interest. I think what I'm telling them or what I'm going to say. I don't know if I respond your question, and I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. But in my understanding, what you described now, that's the Waldorf way, huh?
Yes.
What are the needs of the people? Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know if I can just say one thing. it just feels like the people were feeling like trash, and that was their need. When they could clean that out of their visual sight, it could bring some resolution and uplift.
Yes, and I guess, we have so much respect. Our organizing model teach us how to take people from where they are to where we want them to be. And that takes a process of building trust between one another, a process that is not only one conversation, but there is so many conversations, so many layers into the conversation. Building trust is not happen because I met with Dr. Ida today. No, as I say, I was challenging her. She was coming back. I was, all the way thinking, is that for real? Is that true? For how long is she gonna use our community? All those kind of questions came to me. People come to build their own portfolios and to move to the next level. So all these questions, and I just expressed that to her. I didn't lie. I say my whole truth because I saw what was happening already with some of the people who were coming, trying to, I have to be honest, use our communities for their own agendas. And I was really solid about my position. It's not going to happen with my support. So thank you, Sylvia. Any other question? I don't know if we have time for the next part, Dr. Ida.
No, we should go to the next part.
So I'm going to try to be, can you see it? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So, our organization started in 1972. Our co-founder, who still with us, thanks God, is Father John Bauman. And he started this organization right in the neighborhood where I lived. He started this in 1972. He became the director of that organization for 36 years and moving to the, position of the co-founder of the PICO, director project and the international work. So we started our international work in 2009. And through this organizing methodology that we use in different countries, so this is Dr. and the left side in your screen is Father John, and the right side is Ron Snyder. So both of them are the co-founders of the international work. We are in Central America, El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. We are in Haiti, 5 countries in South Africa, starting the work in Slovakia and Hungary, and now opening a new chapter in Mexico. I'm the organizer for the international work also in Mexico. So, we are a governor by a board of directors, and our board of directors are volunteer people who just donate their time and understand our organizing practice, our methodology. It is composed by faith leaders, community people, parents like myself, people from different backgrounds in terms of, race, language, faith tradition. We are a multi-faith based organization. And as I was saying earlier, we are guided by our PICO principles. And PICO stand for people, community, improving communities through organizing. So here are some of the PICO principles. Never do for others what they can and should do for themselves, which means we don't go to places to do things for people. We teach people, we give the tools, and we empower people to make changes by themselves. The other principle that I was sharing earlier is the first revolution is internal. Dr. Ida went through so many revolutions when she came to Oakland. And there were internal revolutions to be in spaces that were the most comfortable for her, spaces where she looks different, where she speaks different, where she presents herself different, so all those internal revolutions that she had to overcome. The other one that I was saying is the self-interest moves people. What moves people to be part of the community school with Dr. Rida was not Dr. Rida's self-interest only. It was a mutual self-interest that became a community interest that moves people to think together, to create together, to work together, and to go together into the fight. Because it was a fight to open the school in the political arena. So the other thing that is really the product of, the power is the product of relationships. There was no way for the educators with Dr. Ida going to the county to ask to be approved without the relationships and the power that people in the community brings together to make those changes. And when you activate and help people to release their power, it gives the ability to act and decide. So with this organizing methodology, parents were able to learn from one another, to build relationships, to learn around the system and how the system and empower works through research process. Parents like myself, when we were doing the whole work in Oakland to change the system, I went to Chicago, I went to Washington, D.C., I went to New York to learn what was working there. And I learned here what was working and what was not working. And we went to what is public action and evaluation. Those are the 4 simple but really important steps in the organizing methodology. So through that, we demonstrate that, through relationship building, we can really identify people's self-interest, we build relationships, we build power, and we make changes. And this is just an example of what happened in Dr. Ida's school. Those conversations from parent to parent, from educator to parent, from parent to educator, from, and you name it, from staff to, from faculty to faculty, from the person in charge to the faculty. So, and also, we include on this conversation the custodians, people we never think that have something to do, but at the end of the day, when we want to build a school that is community, we must include everyone. People inside of the school and people who is outside of the school community. So these are, again, following some of the conversation. And, this is another example of what one of the conversations. I don't know, Dr. Ida, you will like to say something really quick around this picture.
Yeah, so this is an example where through research, we were able to come together, identify both a member, an authorizer member who's in the white back there, it's a little bit small, and a funder who is immediately next to the lady on their right for us looking. And then a couple of esteemed Waldorf educators. Some of you might know Helen Lubin is there to the right, and Emma and I are in front. But and then 2 parents, we were all coming together. So these are people in high power that we needed on our side to win the school. And they came together because of our one-to-one work and then our power building.
Thank you, Dr. Ida. So this is, again, yes, we exercise power. We bring those people responsible to make change. We make demands. We come with concrete commitments. So we can share this another picture from the school, which is really powerful to see people coming together for the goodwill of the children, whether it's around education, safety, healthcare, food access, whatever needs are. This is inside of the school building also, another wonderful meetings that we have there. This is how we as a community come together also outside of the school perimeter, outside of our school, because when we come together, anything that affects us affects affect others, affect all of us. So we come together again, at the citywide level, county level, state level, and at the national level. So here is another, few pictures of those different kind of how the school participate. And, so here we are. This is who we are in California. We have 9 sister organizations. When things happen at the state level, like right now, the housing crisis is so in front of all of us. So we are organizing at the state level. Here is a meeting with one of the senators who championed one of the laws or propositions that we put for them in terms of housing, rent control. So, through this work, the map that you saw is from California, but we are in 26 states, and we have around 150 organizations through the country. We use the same organizing methodology. So here are some of the states where we are at the national level, and here are the countries, that we are in right now, and we are missing some of them here. So this is what it's about. This is how our work continue bringing, even, I just went to El Salvador to see what's happening over there and to learn. Drinking water, things that we take, for granted. People are lacking in other countries. Building a bridge so kids can go to school when it's, rainy season. Bringing the schools into the communities, building new schools, clinics, electricity, different things. So all, again, is focused on this organizing methodology. Okay, so I think I'm going to stop. And did we have time for the role play, Dr. Ida?
Yes, we can go now to the role play. So now what we are going to do is we are going to demonstrate in a role play what is the heart blood of this work, the one-to-one conversation. And it'll be Emma and Liz Bevan, the president of the Alliance for Public Waldorf Education. She and Melanie Reiser graciously have volunteered to be role players. Thank you both. And Emma, I don't know if you want to say a word of framing and then you role play. Then we'll do one other quick role play and then we'll reflect. This is our entry point of getting in touch with our own inner fear, hesitation of addressing the challenge of becoming more inclusive, and then how do we move forward?
Thanks, Dr. Ida. Yes, just to frame it, as Dr. Ida says, it's important for us to understand, what is the goal of these conversations? Just to say again, is to build relationships and to start to opening those doors of trust between one another and to understand a little bit the needs and the community. It's not for us to say anything. It's to engage into something that make us feel uncomfortable. And I think we need to be okay with that, because it's easy for me to be in the space where I feel comfortable and I can continue serving the community that I'm serving, and that's fine. And if I want to do something different, I have to be open to feel uncomfortable. But again, the goal is on these conversations, there is a structure for the conversation. So the ones-to-ones are around being open to share my story and to listening. It's more around listening, and if I'm the one who invite the other person to this conversation, and also to be open to identify the other person's self-interest, and to hopefully invite that person to be part of, the work that I'm doing or what is my goal. And using this role play, so I'm gonna be the parent, and again, this is a role play, and Liz is gonna, say her role, but she's the educator. So she wants to learn about myself, about my child education, about, so you will see in that conversation. But again, the goal is first of all to start to build those relationships, to build trust, and to continue moving forward. Okay, Liz, you want to start it?
Okay, put my hat on. Good morning. It's really nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
What's brought you here today?
Can you ask again?
What is it? What is your question or concern or interest that has brought you here to the school today?
Well, I have been curious. I see that there are so many children who came to this school that not necessarily looks like my children. And I see them walking happy, with the parents coming. And I always wonder, like, what is this school about? Mm-hmm. And why I need to go an extra mile to bring my kids to the school when I have a school so close to me. So, it was not easy for me to walk into your space because mm-hmm. I just don't feel like I belong to this school.
I'm really glad you did. And I would love to know more about you and your children.
Yeah, I have 3 children. I have a real trouble with my second child. He is not getting what he can, He has this bright imagination. When she came home, she works a lot with his hands. He likes to paint, he likes to draw, he likes to do things with his hands. Mm-hmm. But in the school, when he goes there, he always gets punished because he's not paying attention. He's not doing what the teacher is teaching him to do. He's not following the instructions. He gets distracted. And I'm so frustrated. I have so much pain because my son is in 3rd grade and he cannot even spell his name. So I'm trying to, I went to a private school and they charged me so much for the monthly. And plus, I was told that he's going to go to a test. And because I have 3 kids, if he doesn't pass the test, he may gonna be able to take the kids who pass the test. Mm-hmm. And I don't want, plus I cannot afford to pay private tuition.
Of course, I certainly understand that. What would you like for your son, for your child?
My child to all his brain and full capacity, his mind and mm-hmm. full capacity, his imagination and full capacity. Mm-hmm. I don't want the school that is limiting my son mm-hmm. to use his imagination. And I didn't go to school. I didn't finish school. I tried to help him at home. Mm-hmm. I was taught in one way, and my husband is from the Philippines. Mm-hmm. So we both tried to help him. But all we're doing is just, I will say, making him feel more and more incompetent, if I can say.
I hear that, but I also hear that you are seeing a bright, artistic, creative child, and you would like that to be in the school. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yes.
And I think I also heard you say that you maybe are seeing that when you go past our school and you see the children here.
Well, I can see that they're happy. My son goes to school with pain.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. So what would help you? Where we send our children is a big decision, and we know that at the school, that it's a big decision. It's a lot of trust. How could I help you to think about your son here?
Well, I don't have money to begin with.
That's okay.
And I know your school is a private school. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I cannot afford to pay for tuition for my child. I hardly can pay for rent and put food on the table.
I understand that, and it moves my heart. Would you be surprised to know that this is actually that what you are seeing as a public school?
Oh, well, I didn't know that. I don't know why you have not been in the community telling us that when I live a few blocks from this school.
I think that's a really important question, and you can see I don't have a quick answer for it. That's a really important question.
Well, yeah, I would love for you to, and your school staff to go out and look for the parents like myself.
Uh-huh. How would you suggest we start to do that? What should we do?
Well, I think, we have churches. Most of the people in my neighborhood, we go to church, we go to the parks, we go to there are organizations around here that offer different services, and we gather together in different spaces. I think the church are a great places because, those are the places where we feel comfortable when we are there. So I think it will be good for you to meet with the pastor and talk with him and see, because again, for me, in a way, it's kind of insulting when I see that kids who belong to other neighborhoods that you can tell that are more affluent because they're driving nice cars that we don't have here. And we do have our children here, and nobody, come to us. So, I was kind of concerned when I was walking into your school because I didn't know what to expect. I don't know. I don't feel again like I belong to this place, but I'm glad that we're having this conversation because at least I can share with you,
Yes.
As a parent, where am I? And I'm sure if you're listening to other parents in the neighborhood, you're going to hear similar situations, similar stories like mine.
So you're bringing me, you came to ask about our school and your child, and you're bringing me a really important lesson that we expect the families to come to our school, and you are suggesting we need to go out to the families. Am I hearing you correctly?
Yeah, no, that's correct. That's correct. I mean, I was brave enough to come here. And honestly, yes. I invite other parents and they say, no, this is for, certain children. It's not for my child, but I'm in pain and I want to, bring something better for my son. As a parent, I don't have money, but, I think my son deserves the same education as the children who came to this school.
I agree. I very much agree. And I think we have some things to offer and to talk to you about for your child. And I am sitting here thinking we have a lot to learn from you. So I thank you.
No, thank you so much. And again, I hope to see you at some point, maybe at the church and some place where you can meet with people outside of the school community.
I would really, really like to do that. And I will need to, I think, learn more about the community to do that. And if you are willing, I would like to invite you to come back and speak further and see the school. But we need to come out to you. I agree. And I am sorry that we have not been doing that. I'm truly sorry. And I thank you.
No, thank you. And I'm sure I'm going to come back. My son is really important. So I'm going to do whatever I need to do to,
yes,
have a different experience for my son. Because as I say, he deserves that. The fact that he looks different than most of the children in this school doesn't mean that my son is less than them.
He is not less than the other children. I promise you that. And I hope that we can work with you to give him a different type of experience, but working with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Nice meeting you, and thanks for allowing me to have this conversation.
Thank you for what you've told me and for this conversation. I really appreciate it.
Well, maybe applause for the two. Thank you very much. It's not easy to role play on.
That was my real story, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I could just say, as an educator who has been doing this for a long time, what I wanted to do was to immediately sell how wonderful our school was and to tell you, Emma, all about us. That I could feel it in myself that's what I'm good at. I'm quite good at that. And I had to really stop to try to listen.
Thank you. You did really, I mean, listen is so important.
And that message, sorry, I spoke over you, but that message that when we think we have a treasure, we do expect people to come. It's so wonderful. And you turned it around that we have a responsibility to humbly go out. I think there is really something for us to look at there.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Dr. Ida, you're going to go next, right?
Yes, well, I think at this moment we should pause and get reflections from the role play. As you know, we had planned another role play as well. So we'll salute Melanie Reiser, which would have been two white teachers in a largely white Waldorf school in a highly diverse community, how we can, what we can do. But we will have to save that for a next premiere performance so that we really have time to engage now. And I will actually give it to you, Emma, to make any final comments. And if Liz wants to share more what her thoughts are, what her experience was.
Well, I will be more like open. I mean, of course, the idea for this conversation is a real conversation, right? It needs to be a real conversation. It needs to be, again, to overcome our own fear in terms of moving into another level of this conversation with the community outside of our own comfort zone. I share my own story. It was not, it was emotionally really hard for me. Because even though it was 28 years ago, whatever the time, it still hurts because I know there are so many parents with the same story. So I'm sorry about that. But anyway, I would like to learn to hear from you, your reactions, your takeaway from this conversation was helpful or whatever you feel.
So maybe just to remind ourselves that am I on mute? That what brings us here together, what we're focused on is building a diverse community-owned Waldorf school, as was our original design and which we want to come back to. And so maybe you can give feedback, what you see that you could use, where you have questions, as this is the first step, as we all know. And I want to note, Christoph indicated it, these principles of PICO are Waldorf principles. And Waldorf education is older than PICO. So who knows how the travel worked. But we are very proud to know that this is absolutely how we know that we move people, that we are in relationship and have trust. So let us take the next step now. The mic is open. And I hand it, I think, maybe to Joost for the guiding this part of the discussion.
Yeah, you can easily do it, Ida, if you like. It's fine. You two do good moderation all the time.
Ida, may I just add one thing? Because it really, Emma, I really thank you, because this brought home to me how used I am to being in charge, talking about education in schools or in a classroom. And to move from that, as you said, Emma, it's frightening to give up that control. And I think it is part of education, often.
Yeah, and sometimes, when we have control and want to continue controlling, do not allow to empower more ourselves by empowering others. So in controlling, in many ways, is the fear that we feel that we may lose power. And in the way how this work is in doing so, we build our power to another level. Because you are not giving away nothing but permission to other people to empower themselves and to come together to build the community and the school that to continue strengthening the school community.
Yeah.
Christoph?
Yeah, it's very interesting what I hear. It goes a bit fast. PICO is a new concept for me, but there are some principles, and I'm always so interested in reality and not so much in theory. The second principle in PICO was the first revolution is internal. That sounds spectacular. How does revolution look like? That internal revolution. That was the second principle in PICO.
Yeah.
And I guess that is, for my understanding, that's quite essential. Again, can someone highlight what that means? That the first revolution is internal.
It's the revolution that we feel when we are challenged to do something that we don't usually will do. The first internal fight that I feel when I have to leave my own comfort zone and go to a space that I don't feel so comfortable. Because for Dr. Ida, as an educator with this high level of education, was so difficult to go and meet with the parents. So first of all, looks different than her in many aspects. She has parents in the school who came from Guatemala who hardly speak Spanish. They speak their own native language. That's a revolution that, why I need to be sitting there and try to communicate through an interpreter about this. That challenges you. So that's something that you have to overcome internally if your decision is that you're going to do something different. So it's an internal revolution that we have to deal. And it's an internal revolution that we need to overcome. Go ahead, Dr. Ida.
Well, I want to just build on that. If I say that I feel like PICO principles are Waldorf principles, the reason I was so happy to do this work is because as a Waldorf student, this is the way I was raised. This is the way I was supported to go into the world. Of course, the first revolution is internal. You have to be open to what comes to you, be willing to let it in, and then think the second principle is self-interest moves people. Rudolf Steiner knew that before any of this was said, that we have to be interested, the child has to be interested themselves before they can actually go through that revolution. So I'm very happy that you asked that, because I think these are tight principles that we can easily wear as clothes that fit snugly.
Mm. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. The internal revolution, you cannot prescribe to someone, huh? You can it only do yourself. That is also a principle.
Absolutely. You can only do it yourself. And that is why it's so important that we can't tell parents why they should want to come to our school, but that we need to start by really listening, because we create the safe space where they might have that internal revolution that they think this is actually a fit. Although right now my school looks very white, I'm very white, but if we really listen to each other, there is a real common ground where we can create a good space, not just for my child, if I'm a person of color, if I'm a do that comparison, but for everybody, because we know everybody wins when we become more inclusive, and everybody loses if we're not.
Mm. Yeah.
Joost?
What I experience by what you describe is when I overview my experience with Waldorf schools, normally you find Waldorf as a world in itself, which is like a beautiful island, so to speak. And people who are in the Waldorf world, they just take it and like it as it is. And it's has been already been interesting that there are some academic papers about it too, that from the beginning on, there has been a big connection, for example, between alternative school movements. They had talks, they had conferences, they had interrelations, and they exchanged their ideas. But from the very beginning, Waldorf was never part of it. So Steiner and Waldorf, they were a bit apart from what school and pedagogy is all the time. And out of my perspective, it's till nowadays, there is no real interweaving, no real working together, sharing ideas. And so the Waldorf world, because maybe it's such a strong philosophy in the background, such a strong and valid view, it doesn't connect so easily, which might be not a fault, but it's just like it is. And what I see with your intention and your ideas is to really bring the Waldorf world and Waldorf ideas a bit into a movement of integrating other streams, other community situations, or what you have just described. So for me, it's a new phase of Waldorf. And a phase which really tries to just not to see come into our world, but we go into your world, so to speak, and connect. This is a different approach. And I admire that. And as I have seen it in Oakland, it really touched me very much. You know that I ask myself, are there maybe also obstacles with that? Are there, because, people who just see that as a place for children, then this is the second view. Oh, this is Waldorf. Do I really want that? Something like that. Are there on the real life experience? Are there obstacles like that? And how do you face it? How do you deal with it? So you see, I'm totally positive, but I ask because you meet that everywhere that Waldorf doesn't fit in so easily into other streams. It doesn't go just easily together. You can't have a school festival with all schools and also Waldorf schools so easily. This is an experience I have. Because it's a whole package, everything. It's not only the school, it's also the architecture. It's like you do a blackboard drawing. So Waldorf is so fully organized. There's no space open for other things often. And my question, especially to you, Ida, from your side, you did that step. What is your experience? But also for you, Emma, when you met Ida and go into a Waldorf world, how did it feel for you? How is the feeling for you? Is the question clear, or I hope it doesn't sound awkward or so?
No, it feels like many questions together. Let me just say one thing, and then Emma can speak. I love that you say it's a package, which it wasn't, of course, intended to be. Steiner always said that this is living thinking. So it absolutely shouldn't be a package. We don't want to think of it as just take it from the shelf and do it. And we've unfortunately lost that power. And I should say personally, I had the great privilege to, in my research, interview, when they were elders, a child whose father was a worker at the Waldorf Astoria cigarette factory, and in the same class, a child who was from a highly academic family, and then a child who was from a strongly anthroposophical family, the worldview. And they three remembered those days, and all of them in their 80s. It moves me to share this. They've all passed now. were so committed to their school. But they talked about how it was a living experience. Nothing was solved then, as one higher wealth parent's child said. We all knew at the end of the day who was being picked up by a fancy car to be taken to their house and who walked to the factory workers' apartments. And we were together, and it totally changed all our lives. So they would be the first, if I may, in honoring their memory, to say that this was constantly developing and nothing was packaged about it. And so I think the 21st century phase is to continue that and get away from the package. I want to see if Emma wants to add, and then I see Christophe. Oh, and Melanie, and then Christophe. Emma, did you want to add?
No, I just want to, what you say is, I agree, I guess. Part of what we are accustomed to is that we condition our children to learn in certain conditions, whether it's by the system, whether it's in my classroom, whether it's in my full school. But that is what power brings. So I will say we, without not even knowing or realizing, sometimes put those obstacles for our communities because it's hard for me to leave my comfort zone, and not because I'm a bad person, not because I'm intentionally wants to hurt somebody, but it's just because it's more easy for me to just continue doing what I have been doing because I'm getting good results anyway. So I will say, that's where we need to go more deep into our own selves and really see this is the mission of the school. And if I'm align my values, and this is something that serves the community values also. So, there is so many layers for your question, just, but I guess for me, what is more important is always helps when I go inside of my own self and reflect about the work that I'm doing and where I feel more comfortable and where I feel more challenged and why. Why I feel more challenged in this space than in this space and where the needs are in terms of what I'm contributing to this community, if I can say.
Thank you. I see Melanie and then Christophe. Oh, I'm sorry, Emma. Were you not done?
No.
Thank you. In the role playing, Emma, you shared about tuition being a barrier when you were speaking with Liz, and Liz was able to respond that this was, a school that didn't have tuition. And I'm wondering if in your experience with your organization, so whether it's Waldorf or other settings, where finances are a barrier, have you seen places where the organization has been successful in addressing that barrier? And whether you have or haven't, do you have ideas or thoughts about what, how those organizations can do their, self-reflection and make important changes?
Yeah, thank you, Melanie. One of the things that we do is because we do not organize for example, private school or a Waldorf school to provide tuition. So what we did and continue doing is improving the public education where parents don't have to pay. So we learned from the private sector. We did research around the ones-to-ones with the teacher and the students were critical The reason why in Oakland most of the schools were failing was because the schools were overpopulated. So teacher had 30 children instead of having 15, right? The difference between the private and the public was the number of students that each teacher had. So in doing the system and changing the system, we lowered the number of students at the schools, increased teaching capacity, and become more ones-to-ones learning. So the conditions that we create were more similar to the private sector. If that makes sense, Milan. So it's just using our public money in a way that will provide for the children to learn through art. Actually, the first school that I was co-founder is called Ascend in Oakland, the Fruitvale area where my kids were born and raised. The center of the curriculum was art. And it was because my experience as a parent, where I feel like this is such an important aspect of the curriculum, where the kids can fully use their imagination, their hands, like Waldorf kind. So yeah, we do not open access for parents in the private sector, but we brought the access into the public system. I hope I answered your question.
Crystal. Oh, Christoph,
the view of that question is a bit over. I wanted to react on what was said. But before, that's now 10 minutes ago, what Joost was said about that the Waldorf movement is quite closed because it is so rich. Once we have tried in my city, in The Hague, to start a Waldorf initiative together with other schools in that part of the city that was underprivileged, that still exists, that part. And it was amazing that the other school movements did not show any interest to work together with us. And I have learned that Montessori, Freinet, Holland is very rich in different school types. They are all more or less isolated in themselves. I don't think it is special for Waldorf. But the interesting thing is that the series of this lecture has an overarching title, what we can do better. And I think Joost is touching here something very important. And you are, Ida, in your school, example for that, what we could do better. Just open up to the society around us. That is Waldorf. Waldorf is not isolation. If we do isolation, it is a misdevelopment. And I'm always happy that we can see that and state that. The more you open up without losing your identity, that's Waldorf, I think. And that we could do better.
I'm so glad you say that. And I know we're coming to the end of time, but I wanted to return to Joost, your question about were there also things that were hard? And of course, every day was a challenge and we had tremendous challenges. But I think a core challenge could be summarized as the Waldorf community said we weren't Waldorf enough. And the public system was saying we were too Waldorf. We were too funny. We were too weird. And so it was very important that we could hold our own. And we had very important colleagues in that. And Joost, you are one of them, that you came and worked with us. And also Bernd Ruf coming, who acknowledged trauma-sensitive education was tremendously important, that it could be affirmed, yes, this is Waldorf education, and that we got the recognition internationally. But in the system, it is very interesting. I mentioned how there have been other efforts like ours, and they've either gentrified, so they became wealthy, or they were closed, or they became vanilla, that there was no feature of Waldorf. Why were we able to stay the course? And time again, and I will tell you a little story, we were approached by the district that they wanted to move us out of the building. And that would have really shattered our whole status because we were a community building. It wasn't anything other than the parents. It was the community that protected us. At another time, the district wanted to get rid of me because this was too alternative a school. It was, again, the parents who came and said, we chose Waldorf, and Waldorf has to stay, and Dr. Oberman has to stay. Otherwise, first we lose the Raiders, who was a very famous sports team, and then we lose community school. That can't happen to us. And it wasn't just parents, it was the community, the pastors, the merchants. So it's the community that helps us stay the course. And without the community, we will go under, if I look at precedent, because there are too many pressures that are either homogenizing or gentrifying or academically too taxing.
Yes, and I just want to go back to what you say around, I was saying earlier how we condition our schools to be in isolation. Also, because we do have that control to go outside of our own comfort zone or staying there and conditioning our children, what we do is also keep them away from enriching themselves into what the whole community offers. Because when you have children who represent different sectors of the community, they learning it goes more powerful and more into the real life, if I can say. Because they interact with children who look different, who speak different, who, you name it. But this just enriching themselves within themselves. Like in Dr. Ida's school, kids bring different capacities in terms of what they can share from their own culture. Around waving, around painting, around creating. So the creativity is so immense. So they learn from those cultures that they have no idea if they were not because of that opportunity in that space. To me, that's very unique. And when we have only one sector representing that, we limit our children. Even the most wealthy children miss an opportunity to learn, and vice versa. So you, as an educator, you have everything in your hands, if I can say, or the power to direct or change directions to continue becoming better and better. Don't take me wrong. I don't believe none of the educators, whether it's in this space or outside, I have so much respect. And also, I always challenge, people like where I have an opportunity to be invited to speak, spaces with educators again that I have so much respect, to challenge them to, see these communities with different lens and understanding. And the only way that this could happen is if we go outside of our own comfort zone and work in our own internal revolution.
Yeah, thank you so much. From your side, last word, Ida?
My last word might be the topic here is the community-owned Waldorf schools And I think when we realize it's education through the art, it's really an education towards inclusion, because we know the art is so inclusive. And it's such an example. You said festivals. If we start with asking our families in the first day, what are the festivals you celebrate? What are the stories you tell? And weave those into the festivals we celebrate, then we are no longer Eurocentric. We are using the vessel of Waldorf education to bring forward the inclusion that not only we, but everybody seeks. So I continue to celebrate and be hopeful that we can be leaders in inclusion. And I thank Emma so much.
Yeah, thank you to the both of you. That was a really touching, beautiful talk, and it gave me a totally new perspective what Waldorf can be. Thank you very much to Emma and Ida. We are at the end of our time right now, and I'm happy to announce that next week Christoph Wiechert will talk to us about the topic how to create a Waldorf community between students, teachers, and parents. So I wish you a good day, good night, and a good week, and hope to see you all again next Tuesday. All the best for you, and thank you again, Emma and Ida.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be in this space. That's a privilege for me. So have a great day, or evening or night, whatever applies.
Oh, and thank you, Liz, for the role play.